The Calgary Flames fall against Seattle. Plus, we look at some of the top prospects in the World Junior Hockey Championship. A really tough Black Monday for a lot of people. What is next? A very frustrating trade demand from Trae Young, and a whole lot more. It's going to be a busy one. Couch Potato Diary Live starts right now. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Deeds. Hello. Welcome. First one of 2025. Live, anyway. Did a recorded one yesterday that we'll kind of sprinkle in throughout the day as well. But yes, happy 2020. I said 2025 before. Happy 2026 to everyone tuning in. Yes, 2026. I'm living in the past. I'll get there. First time I've screwed that up this year, although also first time I've said it this year, so I guess 0 for 1 on that one. But yes, happy to be here streaming live with everyone today. Hopefully the holidays treated you all well, and hopefully technology is on my side. It has not been lately, so any issues, please let me know, and I will try to figure it all out as we kind of move along here today. But yeah, a busy one for everyone. We're going to kick things off with some Calgary Flames talk, continue on with the World Juniors, have some NFL coaching changes, I guess, to react to, some trade news out of the NBA, and some year in review content. Wasn't able to get that out in the traditional season, but if nothing else, I prepped it all. So you guys have to listen to it. So that's basically what we're doing today. I'm going to be recording probably a couple of podcasts on this one because I'm going to be on Sportsnet 960 The Fan on Wednesday. So if you're watching this live, that's tomorrow at 6 a.m. And your boy probably doesn't want to do a podcast after being on morning radio. So going to be doing a couple of those today. But yeah, anything you guys want to talk about in the chat, throw it my way, and we will we'll get into it as the show goes on. But yeah, like I said, I have a plan, but whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm more than happy to use nothing that I've prepped for today and just chat with you guys on this one. As always, we're presented by Sea of Dead. Head over to seaofdead403.ca, get some great Calgary swag to kick off 2026. Also, head to swiftenergy.gg, use the code PK Primetime, some awesome flavors, some really good drinks to help kind of fuel your next gaming session, or just give you the energy to keep watching the Calgary Flames. JM Daily over on Kick saying, let's go 2026. Off the start, what are the Flames doing? They are blowing the tank for McKenna. Tall John sending, saying, moved over to Twitch from my question and kick. All right, well, thank you very much for popping in on both there, Tall John. Well, let's answer it. Let's talk about what are the Flames doing, screwing up the tank for Gavin McKenna. Although last night, very good one for Team Tank. The Calgary Flames have certainly been playing better right up until the third period of their game against the Seattle Kraken, where things all fell apart. But where are the Flames right now in the whole tanking situation? Let's take a look and just a lay of the land for the Calgary Flames as we flip the calendar to 2026. So, the 2026 portion of the schedule, not overly kind to the Calgary Flames, but there's a lot of people in the fan base who are particularly happy about that. So let's take a look here. Right now, Calgary is still bottom 3 in the Western Conference. They are currently, that's points, right? Yes, they are currently at 40 points, which is... rough go in Western Canada. 3 points up on Vancouver and 6 points up on the Winnipeg Jets, where the bottom has just completely fallen out there. And no East teams are below them. It's a very much a Western front at the bottom of the NHL standings at this particular time. And that is where a lot of people want the Flames to be. Now, again, with a whole lot in the NHL, just in general, but with the Western Conference specifically for this discussion, all of that is to say the Flames also just 5 points out of a playoff spot. So this is where you get a lot of the concern about the murky middle and everything like that. And my thought on this has kind of remained the same the whole time. It's that I don't think that you need to worry about where this Flames team is going to be at. The time you start to worry about the Flames really making a push is when you start to hear them in trade conversations for not the right reasons, right? Like everyone wants them to trade Rasmus Andersson. That should happen soon. Everyone wants them to move on from Kadri and Blake Coleman as well. Those last two, we'll see on that. But this isn't a very good hockey team. Like that's basically the crux of this. And I know that they've won a lot of games and they've been able to kind of work their way back. But you think about it, like they've been a pretty good hockey team since basically November, right? Like it's a 2-month stretch where they've played some pretty good hockey. After a disastrous start, they've worked their way back to just 2 points below NHL 500, and they're still third last in the National Hockey League. Like it's going to take a couple of just wild runs for the Flames to work their way back into a playoff spot or even into playoff contention. So with this roster as it sits right now, yes, Dustin Wolf is kicking, like is rebounding. And that's what you want to see. I still don't think it's going to be a problem. Team Tank, I don't think you have to worry about it. It's not a good team. Like you look at the teams ahead of them right now, like the Blackhawks, the Blues, the Predators. That group was kind of anticipated to be around where the Flames are anyway. And like the Blackhawks, they're at this spot and they're going to get Bedard back here pretty soon. The Blues have significantly more NHL talent than the Flames have at this particular time. Now, that we can have a lot of discussion about where you would rather be at this point, the Blues or the Flames, but still, the Blues are a better NHL team on this January 6th, 2026 than the Flames are. The Preds may start selling off, so they could become an issue, but right now, again, better hockey team than the Flames are. And they've beaten Calgary a couple of times now and are working their way out of their doldrums. Like it would be one thing if the Flames, I thought, were a significantly better team than some of the teams ahead of them, but they're not. And I don't think they're better than Vancouver, who's behind them, and I certainly don't think they're better than the Jets, who are behind them and having a very difficult go of it right now this season. So Team Tank, I still think everything is fine. Tall John, to your point, the horrible start was epic. Yeah, that helped a lot. And that's a lot to dig yourself out from when there isn't another team that is openly and outwardly tanking, unless like you consider the Vancouver Canucks, who moved on from their number one defenseman. But still, like I think laser beams pointed at Earth, game on the line, planets on the line, and Max Kellerman has taken Iguodala. I would take the Canucks in a game over the Flames right now. If everyone is at their best, the Canucks still have a better roster than Calgary does. So this is... It's been a battle back, and it's the Flames once again just being the Flames. But in terms of like a mushy middle or anything like that, I still don't think you really have to worry about that at this particular time for this group. Tall John also in the Twitch chat. Good for the draft. We should not be worried about making the playoffs till the new building. I'm with you 100%. I don't mind how the Flames are going about it, where you throw the kids in and see where they land. You know, like I hope that Parekh, and we'll talk about him in a little bit, I hope Parekh gets an extended look now at the NHL level and just see where it goes, see how it goes. I would love for Stromgren to get an opportunity here. Steinberg just tweeted out that Beecher's, I think, week to week, I just saw. So I would like to see Stromgren get an opportunity. Let some of these kids, Karens should be back in at some point. I think Gradine should have an opportunity here at some point. Let the kids play and let the chips fall where they may. So no, like it should not be, try to go out and trade for a number 3 centerman. Like if you start to hear the Flames creep up in like Kiefer Sherwood rumors, then you get worried. But as currently constituted, this ain't that good of a hockey team. They try really hard, and they make life really miserable on teams who, in the dog days of the NHL season, would kind of not like to have to work that hard, quite frankly. And that's where Calgary picked up a lot of points last year, and that's where they've picked up quite a few points this year. But you saw it last night. If Calgary has anything less than their A game, it's really difficult for this team to win hockey games. So the tank, not a concern. Not even worried about it a little bit. You're right, Tall John. Like they should be building through the draft at this particular time. And I am a little surprised the Rasmus Andersson trade has yet to come down. I still think it'll probably happen before the Olympics, but I thought it happened before the season, and then I thought it happened before Christmas. So I have been wrong on a number of different levels on that one. And Kadri and Coleman, like Coleman is playing phenomenal hockey right now. And at some point, someone's going to get desperate. With maybe it's now Colorado losing Landeskog for a little bit. But Kadri is just exactly what every playoff contending team needs right now. So the thought of Calgary not getting just a blowaway offer for him, I don't think, I think that's going to come. Do I think someone will give a Godfather offer for Blake Coleman? Probably not. I think they should. Like, I think he would really benefit a playoff team. But I do wonder if they get a Godfather offer for Kadri, all of a sudden Coleman becomes much more available in trade conversations and works it out that way. So yeah, the tank, where it's at right now, yes, it would be nice if they were just so far out you think they're in first. Like just so far back that it's just there's no hope of any chance of them moving up in the standings. And that's not where they're at. It's probably not where they're going to be at because everything is just absolutely locked in. And everyone is just so muddled and tight in the West right now. But more losses will come for the Flames. That they have a Wednesday night game here against Montreal. I think Montreal is a really interesting test case for the Flames to look at. In terms of like where the rebuild can help and everything like that. But you look at the schedule after that, like Boston, they beat Boston, but that's still, again, I think they're better. Like I don't think the Flames are that good. So I'm looking at all these teams and it's like, well, that could be a win, but probably not. Like it's not a murderer's row coming up. Boston, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Blackhawks, then back home against the Islanders, the Devils, the Penguins. And then it starts to get a little bit tough once we get toward the end of the month. But even then, like that's a row of teams battling for playoff spots at this particular time. But then you go into toward the break here, and it's home Devils, home Penguins, home Caps, then home Ducks, at the Wild, Sharks. Leafs come to town, Oilers will be here again, and then at the Sharks again. So that last one against the Oilers is the last one before the Olympic break. There's a lot of losses in there, and I think everything is going to be all right for the Flames on the whole tanking front. That is absolutely for sure. Looking at Deeds' comment here about Zayne Parekh, I want to get to that here in a little bit. I have a couple of things on that. I just want to talk more about the Flame stuff here first, and then we'll talk about Parekh, because I do have something on Zayne at the World Junior Hockey Championships and everything like that. As far as last night's game goes, I think it was kind of a perfect summary of where this team is at right now. Because they had a ton, like they played really hard and they created actually quite a few opportunities. If nothing else, they had a ton of zone time early on. It kind of progressed, right? Like they were working hard, winning a lot of puck battles. I thought their work in limiting what Seattle could do on their exits and entries was a real big part of the first 40 minutes of that game. Calgary had a ton of zone time. It wasn't really leading to a lot of dangerous chances. And then the danger started to come. I think they had 11 high danger chances in the second period or something along those lines. They were able to really start to create off of those chances. But again, it's the lack of finish on this team. That they don't have those goal scorers. Coronado, the aim was just off for him last night. That the shots were kind of going all over the place. So they did a good job of creating the opportunities, but they just don't have the guys to take advantage of all the opportunities, which is something we've been saying about this team basically since Gaudreau and Tkachuk left. That has always been the case with this group. But I did really like what they were able to do in limiting what Seattle could do on the exits and thus the entries into the zone. So Seattle would get a couple of rush opportunities, some good chances. Wolf would have to make a couple of good saves, but then Calgary was able to rush back out and set things up very well again. So again, some positive things that they did, but overall, they just don't have the guys to finish that can put this one away. And then it just shows this team cannot take a period off. Because you go to the third period, they've been battling for 40 minutes. It's a 1-1 hockey game. This is an opportunity to step up and really take this one over. And then you get a bad turnover and a goal. And then this team is just not doing what it's supposed to do in terms of, again, the entries and the exits. They let Seattle just free and clear out of the defensive zone, not hindered at all, and so that creates the rush up ice. And when you get that, when it's not a slow exit, and you are able to rush 3-4 guys out, you get what happened on the Dunn goal. And it ultimately was very poor D-zone coverage from Calgary, but you get Kakko rushing up the right wing side. Beniers comes in and kind of takes that wing as well. Kakko stops up right inside the blue line, and honestly, you could almost see how surprised he was with how much time he had. Like, it looked like he was ready to stop up and go, wait a minute, there's time now. And he's able to put a perfect pass to Dunn, who's able to make a move, go in and score. But it's Beniers driving in that kind of takes Kuznetsov back a little bit, backs him up, and creates all that time for Kakko to be able to stop up, make the pass to Dunn, and score. Should a defenseman be able to walk three of your players to get into the slot and get the goal? No. But all of that gets set up because it was a very clean exit for Seattle. They're able to rush up the ice, and now the Flames are kind of in scramble mode. And of course, you're going to back off and take probably Seattle's best player in Beniers and watch him, but that lets Kakko kind of pick the team apart. And so it just... Calgary stopped doing what made them successful in the first two periods, and it just shows they're not good enough to take a period off because Seattle kind of ran their show after that and was in complete control of everything from that point on. So this really did summarize a lot of what is wrong with this Flames team, where they don't have enough guys who can finish, and they just don't have the talent to be able to play at even 85% against teams that are fringe playoff contenders in the NHL. I know Cooley was a little under the weather for this game, but I do think we're getting into too many games now for Dustin Wolf in a row. That was his sixth straight, and he's been playing excellent. And I didn't notice it as quickly as Kelly Rudy did, where Wolf was maybe fighting it a little bit. I thought he made some excellent saves. Now, when you go back and watch, maybe you can kind of see, like, okay, yeah, he is maybe not as sharp on rebound control and everything that he needs to do, but he is still at least making some great saves. Like, he was good in this game, but we've seen him be great. Honestly, even if Cooley isn't ready, then throw Say in there or something. I think Wolf needs a bit of a breather now, because we're getting back to a pretty ridiculous pace for the Flames' number one goaltender in a season where you're third last in the National Hockey League. You don't need to be putting those kind of miles on your young defenseman, on your young goaltender in a season that really doesn't matter a whole lot. So, interested to see now what happens. Like I said, I would like to see Stromgren get back in the lineup. I would like to see Parekh work his way back in and just get a real extended run. And again, we'll talk about him here in a second. Just quickly on the Seattle side, Grubauer continues to kind of step up. That was the big issue for them last year, is that goaltending, they just couldn't stop a thing. And that ended up spiraling them into a number of different problems. But like it's a fine hockey team. You have Beniers, who I think is going to be really, really good. But aside from that, it's just, they're kind of where the Flames are. Just, they have a bit more talent, an elevated version of where the Flames are, where they have a bit more talent up and down the lineup, but they probably needed to rebuild a little bit sooner and not try to do the Vegas thing of just make the playoffs right away. Because they have Beniers, right, hasn't turned into that guy yet. Nice goal, but hasn't really turned into that guy yet. But it's like it's a fine hockey team. It's not one that scares you at all, but a pretty good hockey team nonetheless. And Beniers looks like he really is something after maybe a couple years that weren't necessarily what he was looking for. Tall John in the chat: I may fly home for Hockey Day in Canada. My parents live in Moncton, making that decision today or tomorrow. Oh man, that'd be a lot of fun. I do like. Sometimes Sportsnet can get a little hokey with the Hockey Day in Canada stuff and everything else that goes around it, but I do love the idea of just Canadian matchups all the way through the day, or Canadian adjacent, because we have 7 teams now instead of the 6. But I love the idea of just Hockey Day. We just roll it all the way through all these Canadian matchups, really gear it up and make a big day of it. And so yeah, get to fly home, hang out with the fam, watch 12 hours of hockey, or just a couple, depending on what games you want to pick. It sounds like a great idea, Tall John, but obviously, a lot of things can go into it. Never been to Moncton. Seems like a cool place, though. So hopefully you get to enjoy that out there. That's it for this part of the Flames talk. We're going to get into a couple of other hockey discussions here on the live stream, or if you're watching this after the fact, in other videos. But do want to remind you guys that really want to put the pedal to the metal growing the channels here this year. So if you could share this video, if you're watching live or watching this after the fact. Last year, the growth was a lot of fun. Seeing a few more people in the chat, getting to interact with a few more people, that was great. But it's kind of go time now for needing this to grow more. Not that I love everyone who is here. I just want you guys to have more people to chat with. So if you could hit that share button and send it out to your Flames fan friends, and we can keep the conversations going all throughout the day here on Couch Potato Diary. The World Junior Hockey Championship is now behind us. Sweden, gold medal winners, which means in Canada, we'll forget about this in a week until we want to get frustrated about the state of the game in this country. But a couple of players had a real opportunity to get back on track in what has been a season that hasn't really gone their way. And for Zayne Parekh and Gavin McKenna, the results, good. Maybe not what everyone was hoping for, but still pretty good, but definitely left us a lot to talk about. So let's do that and chat some World Juniors. So yes, the World Junior Hockey Championship now in the books for another year. And I thought it was an interesting tournament, just in general, an interesting tournament. When you have we thought the top three, Verhoff ends up not doing a whole lot, but you have, I guess, the top two draft prospects of this year's draft in a tournament that's not normally dominated by draft picks or by potential draft picks going in and kind of going head to head. And then you also had in Flamesland here, Zayne Parekh getting loaned down from the National Hockey League after what has not been an overly impressive or inspiring start to the season. So a lot of different talking points around it. And for Parekh, we'll start there. I think this tournament is, I feel like this tournament just solidified what you think of him regardless. I don't think it's changing anyone's mind. I think it's a Rorschach test for what you view Zayne Parekh as. If you like Zayne Parekh, this tournament drives home what you like about him, right? The offensive skill, that shot is lethal, and the instincts, the skating, all of that, you're going to love him, right? So if you already liked Zayne Parekh, you probably love him now. And if you didn't like Zayne Parekh, this tournament drives home why you don't, right? Because it wasn't phenomenal defensively. And I don't know how much of that was his fault, but it wasn't phenomenal defensively. And he did have a few issues in the areas where everyone thinks he's going to have issues with. So I don't think this tournament did anything to change anyone's mind on the kid at all. I'm in the camp of liking him, so I liked what he did. Are there concerns about the defensive side of things? Of course there are. But I also think that the offensive side kind of outweighs it. And I remember when he was drafted and we're talking about the process, and we had someone at 960 text in saying, oh, he's going to be the next Erik Karlsson. I was like, yeah, we hope. And the texter was like, no, don't want that. Excuse me? Erik Karlsson was one of the best defensemen in the NHL for a number of years, and Norris Trophy winner and all of that. If Zayne Parekh turns into Erik Karlsson, you're laughing. It's not Karlsson's fault. Ottawa didn't turn it around in the way that they wanted to and didn't get beyond the points that they did. But Parekh, there's always going to be detractors for a number of different reasons. But from a hockey standpoint, the defensive side, it always feels like offensive defensemen always have that but that they have to answer for. And you don't like him just going across and tackling a dude on the rush for Finland. I will say, and just in defending him, because again, I liked him going into this, so I'm looking for the positives, I guess. I will say, this was his first hockey in a while. And so to get thrown in at this high of a level after not playing for a month and a bit, that's a lot to ask of a guy. But you see what makes him so tantalizing, and you see what makes him a game breaker, and you see everything the Flames need, right? Power play quarterback out there who has phenomenal offensive instincts. The skating is second to none, right? He is gliding out there, and just when he has the puck in the offensive zone, he feels like he is in complete control of the game. If he gets to even a fifth of that at the NHL level, he's going to be fine. That shot, probably better than a lot of people anticipated. His vision on the offensive side, great. The defensive side, I still think he's going to come around to it. I think from a Flames standpoint, you kind of just got to let him be him, and you got to let him play. Everyone who I've talked to about this guy, and a lot of those conversations sparked up again here around the World Juniors, everything gets driven home how smart this dude is. He finished school early just so he could focus on hockey. There's obviously a passion for it. There's obviously a drive there, and there's obviously a high level of intellect that goes on with a really strong work ethic. And you hear about his time in the OHL, and I was told it took him about a month. And then he figured it out, and he knew everything that he was doing wrong, and he knew what he could do and how he could completely dominate. And he ended up getting 30 goals in back-to-back seasons for a defenseman, which was only ever done by Bobby Orr. So I'm not saying let him play for a month and he's going to be Bobby Orr at the NHL level, but I don't think the stop and start with him is the way to go. I think he has to be out there. I think he has to be seeing what's going wrong, what's going right, and figuring out how he can make it all work around that. So I feel like you just need to let him figure the NHL level out. He is so smart and so talented, and there are going to be mistakes. And that has to be fine, because this is going to be a young team for the Flames for a while now. You have to be okay with mistakes. It can't be one mistake and you're up in the press box for 2 games and all of that, because you can see what it's doing to him. Like the comments after his first big game against Czechia there, like the dude sound like he was just absolutely abused almost. And I'm not suggesting the Flames were, but you hear the comments about how awful this year has been and how he needed a rebound like this. And it's like, it hasn't been great, but it hasn't been to the point where he should be sounding like he's coming back from war. So obviously this is grinding on him mentally. Obviously this is all wearing on him. And so I think what this whole experience told me is that the Flames, I think, need to manage this kid a little bit differently. And you have to understand, like, everyone is a little bit different. You can't just blanket 1 for 23. All right, we have to talk to everyone, manage everyone the exact same way. Treat them fairly, but you can't yell at one person and then not yell at the other one, you know? Or you can't yell at one person and just yell at that one because that's the way we do it. If that person's each person's going to react to those a little bit differently. That's like leadership 101. And so obviously whatever was happening with this kid needs to be altered a little bit, because that sounded just like a broken down guy. And that's not what you want from the most important prospect in your organization at this particular time. To Deeds' point, these comments of Parekh going back to the juniors, short of a confidence boost, it'll not serve him well. He is not going to focus on his defensive side of game there. I 100% agree. Like, the reason he's playing up with the Flames is that he's past that level, right? Like, he has figured out the OHL in a phenomenal way, right? Like 30 goals at that league. And he got off to a bit of a slower start the season before. Yeah, last season. And then he scored 30. But he got off to a bit of a slower start because he was just focusing on one thing. And it wasn't helping him, because that's not his game. And you don't want him to just be a defensive defenseman. He's never going to be that. But he was trying to be that in his first little bit at the OHL in his post-draft year, I guess. Because, well, that's the thing I need to work on, so that's what I'm going to work on. I think he would just do that again, and you're not going to really get a fully rounded part of his game. You have to work on the defensive side while also accepting he's going to shoot a couple of times too. So I don't think anyone should be sending him back to junior. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me at all. The conditioning stint that you could do with him in the AHL, if you're still able to do that, that makes a lot of sense to me, just because things are a little crowded at the NHL level at this particular time for him. But like I said, I think just letting him go out there and play is the thing you need to do with Zayne Parekh right now and the Calgary Flames. Tall John, once again, if the Flames organization is real about not making the playoffs, they need to let the kids play to get experience, and they need to tag team the goalies. Let the season go as it does. Will set us up better for the new rink and the future. I agree. Like, let Parekh make his mistakes now. Let him make the mistakes against Boston in January, where, we're now second worst in the National Hockey League. Let him make those mistakes so he can learn from them, so at the time you're good again, off you go. And off and running it is, and he's now figured it all out. Like, don't messing around with it now. It obviously isn't working. And then the robot comments. I had no problem with it, but I knew other people would. And then you hear the apology, and it's like, that's exactly what a robot would say. I get it, and I understand. Like, he probably shouldn't have said that, talking about the Flames and how everyone wants him to be a robot and all of those things. Like that, I can see where the Flames would not be thrilled with that. But, like, for us, you know that has kind of been the Flames thing, right? Like, they don't really stir the pot all that much. And there was a lot of talk when Matthew Tkachuk was here about how they weren't necessarily happy with how he was handling things on or off the ice at different times. And I think this drives it home. And so again, I I just really think this introduction to the NHL was really hard on him. And he's thinking about like being a robot in the press conference, and you have to play in the structure and all of that. And that's not him. And I'm not saying you just let him do whatever he wants just so that he's happy, because that's not going to be beneficial either. But you have to find a way where you can kind of mold the style that you want with what makes him so exceptional at what he does. It can't just be, well, this is what the Calgary Flames do, and we've developed, well, at least 2 good defensemen in the last 30 years, so we know what we're doing. It can't be that. You have to figure out what his strengths are and how they can work in the system, but it can't just be, well, Kuznetsov does it, so why can't you do it? And it can't just be, well, this is how we do media, so you have to figure it out. Because now you are taking away everything that makes him, him. And you need all the things that make him, him. So I think there needs to be a bit of an adjustment of how the Flames handle this dude now going forward at the NHL level. The other player who there was a lot of focus on at the World Juniors was Gavin McKenna. And I think people are overreacting to it a touch. I get that this hasn't gone well for him this season. And this kind of did need to be the Bedard, Celebrini, even Lafreniere before he got hurt at that tournament. This needed to be that for him to get back into the spot. And instead, Stenberg had a very good tournament. But I thought McKenna looked really good. Like some of the passes, that one in the bronze medal game where he just whistles it across. He had so many just turn fire and it's right on the tape passes. He showed me that high level of skill is obviously still there. Like, he didn't forget how to play hockey in the last 6 months. And so, did I see this guy is going to take over the NHL next season? No, I didn't, to be perfectly frank. So I guess there is some merit to the reacting that is going on. But I think people are being way too hard on Gavin McKenna going into this one. And I hate how this has gone for him, because he chose to challenge himself, right? He chose to go to the NCAA to push himself. It is an adjustment. It's a new country. It is a new lifestyle being at college, and it is playing against guys bigger, older, stronger. So all of that, yeah, there's going to be a bit of an adjustment period. And so I guess you would have liked to see him come back, play against guys his own age, and really dominate. But again, he looked like a good first-line player to me. And everyone kind of taking runs at him. I don't get it. So I feel bad because he kind of, again, best way I can say it, he chose to challenge himself. And it hasn't gone great. And now you think about it, like, I don't know if we're having the discussions about Verhoff or Stenberg passing him in the draft if he stayed in the dub, and he's already at 70 points this season, and Medicine Hat's in first place, and they're just cruising by everyone. But would that be better for his development? Probably not. I think this type of a season is going to be good for him, but you can understand where people would get a little bit concerned that maybe this is more Shane Wright than it is Connor Bedard, and have a bit of that worry. So I love that he has tried this. I hate that it isn't going very well for him. And if the Flames don't get the first overall pick and 1 and 2 or whoever pass on him, then with a smile on my face and a tear in my eye, I would take Gavin McKenna on the Flames tomorrow. I like that. That part of it hasn't changed for me even a little bit. I still think this kid is really, really good. Deeds in the chat. The World Junior Championship did nothing for my view of Parekh. Good or bad, more confirmed what I thought, but it did help my view of Reshny. That's an excellent point. I did mean to get to that in the Parekh part of it. But yeah, I thought Reshny looked really good. And kind of that 200-foot game that I'm saying, look, you don't need to be all that hard on Parekh about, because he's so gifted offensively. Reshny had kind of that 200-foot game to him, and pretty good shot he showed offensively, and just all around really strong play in the whole of the ice. Again, like he's not the dominant number one center that's going to turn this organization around. Like, you don't see it and go, okay, rebuild done, we got our guy. But he is absolutely going to be a part of things when this Flames team is good again. There's no question about it. I think you feel very, very good about that pick. And I think it really drives home just the home run that the Flames were able to hit there. Tall John agreeing as well. The last point I will have, and I guess Reshny kind of goes against it because he also going the NCAA route and has done pretty well so far. But I wonder how this affects top prospects going to the NCAA now, because McKenna was as top prospect as it gets. We've been talking for multiple years about tanking to eventually get Gavin McKenna. And now that we are here and he's trying something new at the NCAA level, well, now people are a little upset about it and a little hard on the kid. So you wonder if the next one coming up after him maybe rethinks this a little bit. And it's like, hey, I'm just going to go just whoop that ass in junior for another year and be fine. I'm not messing with that because I don't want to hurt the draft stock all that much. So I wonder if this kind of changes the conversation around some of those as well. Tall John here. I think it was tough for some of the kids when they are playing in front of more people day to day than they showed up for the biggest spotlight of their career so far. The fan base was horrible minus the USA games. Yeah, it was a bit of a weird atmosphere there for sure. Like you're expecting, all right, Canada, World Juniors, let's go. And it was just there. And you have to walk through another rink to get to your ice and all of that. So yeah, it's a weird one. And also, we do need to remember, just because this is the last time a lot of us are going to watch some of these kids, doesn't mean this is the only part of the whole development thing. There have been many a player who have just been absolute doo-doo at the World Juniors, who have gone on to have fine National Hockey League careers. And the flip side, there have been players that have dominated at the World Juniors and gone on to be nothing at the NHL level, right? So this isn't the be-all, end-all for it, but I do understand on the McKenna side that maybe people wanted a little bit more out of that particular player. I still saw a really talented hockey player, and I wouldn't, if my team was in any position to draft him, wouldn't hesitate for a second to make him a cornerstone part of my franchise. But what do you guys think? Is there panic for either Parekh or McKenna? Let me know in either the chat for those watching live or in the comments after the fact. Again, we are streaming this one live here today, and I think things are going well so far. But yes, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick is where we stream all of these here. Going to be back live, guaranteed anyway, on Thursday. Time to be determined. But Thursday we're going to be back going live. Not going to be tomorrow. And if it is, it's going to be some kind of a video game thing. It's not going to be one of these. But keep it locked on my social media at PrimetimeKlein. You can see at the bottom of the screen there for updates on when we are going live. Now, I was able to tape a couple of things yesterday and wanted to play them for you guys now because I, again, taped it, but I like the conversations around it and everything like that. And we're talking about a potential future great in guys like Parekh and McKenna. But what about current greats? Sidney Crosby is on just one heck of a run right now at the NHL level, obviously, at every level he has played at, to the point where you start to wonder where he fits in historically. So recorded this yesterday. I'm going to hang around here. We can still chat about all of it. But yeah, recorded this yesterday. If you still want to chat, I'm going to be here hanging out in the chat. But let's chat a little bit about where Sidney Crosby maybe slots in the grand scheme of NHL greatness. Sidney Crosby, heard of him, very good hockey player. He has reached milestone after milestone and kind of checked every box that you would want for him. And we are coming down to the last bit, whether it's the last year or two, last game or a few, or whatever it is. But the career is certainly winding down. And it has me thinking, what is Sidney Crosby's place in history right now in the National Hockey League? Let's take a look at what Sid the Kid has done and where that might put him in the all-time NHL lore right now. The newest all-time leader in points for the Pittsburgh Penguins is Sidney Crosby, as he passed Mario Lemieux in all-time Penguin scoring a couple of weeks ago. And it has me wondering now where this guy ranks all-time in history, right? Like, he is on one of a handful of teams where he is not the automatic best to have ever done it with that team. And you can make a case, right? Like Mario, one of the best players of all time. Crosby, I don't know if it's just because we're watching it in time and we don't appreciate it or what. I don't know if he gets talked about in those circles as much as maybe he should. 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Hart Trophy winner, 4-time NHL first team All-Star, not the ones that the fans vote on, but like the end of the year, like all first team, and then all second team as well. Currently, as I'm recording this, 8th in points all time, and could pass Steve Yzerman and Marcel Dion by the time this season is done. And I really do think you have to look at this kid now, Sid the Kid. I think you have to look at this guy now as one of the best to have ever done it. Like, I think an easy top 10 for him at this point. To me, Mount Rushmore right now is Gretzky, Howe, Orr, and Lemieux. I do still think he is behind him. Like, I think, like I said before, I think you could make a case that Crosby could have passed Lemieux as the greatest Penguin of all time, but just saying that doesn't feel right. You know, like, obviously points-wise, he passed him, so there's that. But there's just that there's a feel to it that just doesn't click there, right? Like that, as I'm saying that, that feels like something you watching would get upset about. You know? So just from a feel standpoint, it doesn't feel like Crosby has passed Lemieux. And so then to put him with Orr, Howe, and Gretzky is a difficult thing to do. But it's tough to put him much further down than those guys. When, again, you look at the resume and what this guy has done. Just an incredible career. And again, like, limited at times with some concussion problems and all of that. And he wasn't here at a time where the goals were all the way down like it was pre-lockout or anything like that. Like, he comes in at a time where they've eased up on it a little bit, but there was still some down goal scoring times. And he's still able to put up massive numbers compared to guys who were out there when games were 8-2 and goalies were wearing cardboard for goalie equipment. And 3 Stanley Cups, with some longevity there too, right? Like, he'd been to a couple more also, but it wasn't just, oh, he had a great start to his career, now it's kind of faded off. He has been good even to this exact moment in time. And a couple of Stanley Cups after the run that they had early when they were competing with the Red Wings in the Cup final every year. Like, he is another one where you could divide his career in half and you'd get 2 Hall of Fame careers. And again, the international stuff gets a little limited because of NHL's lack of involvement in those sorts of things, but an all-time moment with the golden goal in 2010. So I feel like you are watching one of the all-time greats. And it really drives home, we need to get this guy playing big games again, whether it's the Penguins in the playoffs or not. This guy can still play at a really, really high level. I know a lot of people in Colorado, a lot of people in Montreal would like to see him on their teams as they make a push towards a championship. But I feel like we need to get this guy in the playoffs with a legitimate chance to win a Stanley Cup. And I don't think if he leaves, if he does the Ray Bourque, obviously a bit of a difference there because Ray Bourque had none and this guy has 3. But if he does that, I don't think it affects the legacy even a little bit going forward. So it was something that kind of caught my eye. Like, wait a minute, where do I have him all time right now? So probably next time there's going to be a lull in me doing hockey stuff. Or me doing podcast stuff. We'll probably throw that out as a top 10 players of all time in NHL history. And Sidney Crosby, he's going to be on that list. And he's probably going to be pretty high up given the amount of accomplishments that we have seen. And I feel like as someone who came in with all that hype, he has lived up to it. And it's funny because he was talked about always, and he was on every national this and every commercial that and this, that, and the other thing. And now that there's been kind of this new wave coming in and the Penguins have admittedly kind of faded off into obscurity, I think it is now kind of to a point where we're under discussing how good this guy has been for his entire hockey life. And yeah, I think there's like a top 5 case that could be made for this guy and just how good he has been as an NHL player for as long as he has done it. Where do you guys have him ranked? Where is Sidney Crosby all time? Am I being just a little bit too cautious and not putting him ahead of Mario Lemieux in Penguins all-time lore? Or do I have that one right? Let me know down in the comments. I'm sure no one will be shy on things like this because Sidney Crosby and all-time lists really do get people fired up. if you want these in podcast form, well, you're in luck. They're there. You can listen to Couch Potato Diary on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, a couple more here from the chat. Just wanted to play that for you guys. And tell John pretty well where I'm at on this. Lemieux was a more dominant player. It would have been something to see him with a full career. That is something you have to remember. He had that whole illness thing for a couple of years that kind of, hindered things a little bit. And for him to be able to come back and still put up a lot of the numbers that he did in that second act of his career is remarkable. So always something you have to keep in mind with Mario and the counting stats with him. But yeah, to Mario being a more dominant player, his size and reach was a huge factor, let alone skill and IQ comparisons. It felt like, it feels to me like Mario was a bit more dominant than Sidney Crosby was. And I think part of that just is the size and a bit of a perception thing going on there. So 100% with that. But to Tall John's point, best all-around two-way player in the Cap era. I think there's no question about that, where Sidney Crosby is at currently there. But yeah, I don't have him ahead of Mario, but he might be right behind him. So like I said in the thing there, I will probably do a all-time list or something just to see where I would have him, because I think it has certainly changed over the last little bit. And then the talk of would him not retiring as a Penguin affect the legacy or anything? I don't think it does. As I said in the piece there, and Tall John agrees, wouldn't ruin his legacy, much like Marc-Andre Fleury not being protected. He will always be a Penguin. And yeah, and I think if Crosby goes off and helps Colorado win another Stanley Cup, then he's got, what was it, 4? That's pretty good. That helps. Now we're getting into the kind of all-timer categories there for sure. But he could be, if they extended the Mount Rushmore to 5, Crosby might be making his way on there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. We're going to move away from the hockey talk now for a little bit, but let me know what you think of the Crosby conversation here. Deeds in the chat. See, the Lemieux-Crosby comparison is hard. Lemieux played a different game. That is another part of it too, like looking at the counting stats and what I brought up in the recording there. Crosby, it wasn't the dead puck era, but Lemieux put up a lot of those numbers at a time where it's like 9-7, 8-3 on a lot of different nights. And then they played different styles as well. It is interesting. Like I was going to say, like maybe the teammates are a little bit different. They're not. Like Crosby played on some loaded Penguins teams, as did Mario. So yeah, it just, you don't love this because as it goes on, and as we go on and on for obvious reasons, you lose part of this debate, but it just doesn't feel like Crosby's ahead of Mario, right? Like that is the only way I can put it. Statistically, it's close enough that maybe you give it to Crosby because of the era or what, but it just, Mario feels like he should be on a different plateau than Sidney Crosby is at this particular time. And both hugely important to the Penguins as well in terms of keeping them in Pittsburgh. And what they meant to those franchises. So a very interesting discussion around Sidney Crosby, and one that I think kind of pops up again, given what is happening with him and the Penguins' points record. So again, yeah, if you guys want to keep talking about that, we can throw it in the chat and get back to it. But I'm going to move into the world of the NFL. As some of the best teams in the National Football League get ready for the postseason, some of the worst get ready for a coaching search. As Black Monday came, and not many were spared. A number of coaching vacancies, now a couple GM vacancies as well. So let's break down the smart moves and the not quite as smart moves from Black Monday in the National Football League. So, Black Monday came and went, and minimal things happening, right? That's not entirely true. You have a number of different coaching changes across the NFL. Let's start with Atlanta as they pull off the daily double with Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot out. Fontenot, the general manager. And this one, this makes sense to me. You have Bijan Robinson, you have Drake London. We can debate about whether Kyle Pitts should be put in there, but you have a couple of high-level players on the defensive side as well, and you couldn't win a division where 8 and 9 got it done. That gets you fired. This is not a talent-rich division. The Falcons have the pieces that they should be better than the Panthers. They definitely, I mean, they finished better than the New Orleans Saints, and they should be at least competitive with Tampa Bay. But I think you would be surprised to find out that Atlanta actually did finish tied with the Buccaneers in the NFC South, just based on how the season went. So when you have the high-level talent there, from a roster building standpoint, you have to build around it better than Atlanta did. And from a coaching standpoint, you have to get more out of it than you did. And they just weren't able to do it. And ultimately, the Cousins-Penix decision was a disaster. And both of them getting hurt, I guess, justifies the idea, but the execution was awful. And like Penix able to kind of fill in where Kirk Cousins wasn't great, but you have to do your due diligence in signing Kirk Cousins. You can't sign him in that contract and then be like, oh, maybe the medicals here aren't what we want them to be, so let's draft Penix here. Because that, like, there's a couple of offensive linemen who went after Penix. Bo Nix went after, so even if you wanted to do the quarterback thing, maybe pick a better one, and one that doesn't have injury problems there. You can poke holes in the Cousins one, certainly, and even the Penix one, it sucks because he was playing pretty well. It's just injuries kind of got in the way of a lot of things, but that wasn't the most unpredictable thing to happen. So you can really poke holes in either of them, but really doubling down on it and then tripling down and trading away this year's pick, I think just absolutely final nail in the coffin for both guys. I can understand Bijan and Drake London kind of banging the drum for their guy, but no, it's done. That's over. Like you have to elevate now for the Atlanta Falcons. The Cleveland Browns fire Kevin Stefanski. He'll get a job right away. Happy New Year, Toxic. Welcome to the chat. Thanks for popping in today. Stefanski will get a job right away. Like, I don't think this was all his fault. I will say, like, they at least have a little bit of talent there, right? I don't think Stefanski handled the quarterback situation well. I don't think the Cleveland Browns handled the quarterback situation well, with Gabriel and then Shedeur and all of that. Obviously, the Flacco decision, like, that's gone, right? But you at least have a bit of talent there. Like, Harold Fannin Jr. is a dude. Seems like Judkins is a guy. Samson even feels like one too. They don't got a ton of receivers there, but you got some pretty good talent on the defensive side as well. So, like, I don't think that if we're handing out the blame pie for the Cleveland Browns situation, that Stefanski gets a lot of it, but he's not going home hungry. He's getting some of that pie, because they did have at least a little bit there to work with. Obviously, it's the Browns, so it's just, oh, well, what are you going to do? But yeah, like, I would take Stefanski as the Raiders head coach tomorrow, and we'll talk about them here next. But I don't think that he should just be absolved of any of the issues that are going on with the Cleveland Browns' current state. I think that there at least does deserve to be some blame that is put on Kevin Stefanski at this particular time. So yeah, like, that's, I feel like it's justified, but also, are you going to get better than him? I don't know. So it's a tough spot that Cleveland is in. I am surprised we haven't already started hearing Deion Sanders rumors, right? Like, that felt like an obvious one that was going to happen the second that guy got fired. So I guess credit Cleveland for not even floating anything out there. Honestly, that this feels like clearing a very low bar. Credit Deion Sanders and the Sanders group for not floating that out there as an idea already to kind of mess with things there. I'm surprised we haven't heard those rumors. I thought you would get them basically immediately. The Vegas Raiders have let go of Pete Carroll. It's tough to defend a coach who went 3-15 and got the first overall pick. I don't know what he was supposed to do. Like, if he came in and got the absolute most out of every single player on that roster, this team might be 4-13. Like, there's not a lot that went well. Sorry, that 3-14, not 3-15. But either way, like, where is this team going to be? Like, this is a bad roster. And, like, they fired every coordinator during the season. And I get you're not bringing in Pete Carroll for the long haul at 73 years old. In a group chat last night, joking about it, as, the Raider fan, you get these jokes. And and getting the text that, oh, hey, well, Art Shell's still alive. It's like he's only 6 years older than Pete Carroll is, so it's not out of the realm of possibility with that. Although I did say the Raiders had the chance to do the funniest thing now and hire Lane Kiffin. Like just throw a boatload of money at him. Just, yeah, come on in. And so he abandons 2 college programs in 1 year. That would be very funny for me, but not going to happen. But yeah, with Pete Carroll, like I don't know what he was supposed to do. I don't think there is a coach on God's green earth that could have got more than 5 wins out of this football team. This is a start from scratch situation in Vegas now. I'm not even convinced they should draft a quarterback first overall. I would be, as a Raider fan, I am much more hoping that there is a team that is just falls in love with Mendoza and throws a whack load of picks the Raiders' way, because they will go from having a lot of needs to having a lot of needs and a young quarterback. And we've just seen that doesn't go great all the time. So I like that this is not a 1-year turnaround for the Raiders. They need players at this particular time. And I think they would be much better off trading that pick and building up the way that the Bears were able to do, or other teams around that were able to, rather than just sticking and picking at first overall. The Arizona Cardinals firing Jonathan Gannon. This one felt obvious. A pretty tough season out in Arizona, that there isn't much that you can hang your hat on. It's funny, like, oh man, Jacoby Brissett really came in and was really effective. They lost every game. That was like every game that he played, it was bad. So now the question is, what do you do at quarterback? It seems like they're done on Kyler Murray. I would imagine he's done on Arizona as well. So they're in a decent spot in the draft. Do they just roll with Jacoby Brissett for another year, try to plug some other holes, and then figure everything out later? Because this isn't like it's not a great roster. It's not an awful one. Like they're in a much better spot than the Raiders are, which is damning with faint praise. But I think it's a really interesting question to see what direction they go now with this football team. A couple here in the chat. Toxic. Max Crosby's getting traded, right? Oh, 100%. He is getting traded. Yeah, with him kind of making a mockery of everything with the injury status going into that Giants game and just the spot that the Raiders are in right now. I think once you start to hear, oh, the Raiders are a little bit more open to trading Max Crosby's getting traded for sure, which would then give them like 2 NFL players on the entire roster. And then Tall John, did I see correctly that someone, not well knowledgeable of NFL, that someone made a almost 60-yard kick? That is crazy. Yeah, it was a 67-yard kick. Jacksonville's kicker hit that one. Wasn't even his longest of the year. He hit a 68-yarder previously as well. So, yeah, there's the kicking game in the NFL has gotten insane. That one, standard bearer, the Vegas Raiders, formerly Oakland, Sebastian Janikowski, he was the OG of this. That's something that Raiders always had, was at least they had a kicker. Nothing else, but at least they had a kicker. What else happened? Oh, okay, so those are the coaches that were fired. Now to the ones that I'm a little bit surprised weren't. The Giants keep Joe Schoen around. I am stunned by this. When I did the whole thing around Daboll getting fired, like you look at this, it's not a good roster. And the only good parts of this roster were when they made their layups. Now, there are teams that miss layups, in the draft all the time. Riddled with mistakes, high up in drafts. And so I guess credit to the Giants for not messing up royally there, I guess. But like I don't see what the justification is for letting this guy keep his job. And like Daboll, there's at least a track record before this where he's gotten some pretty good offenses out of some players. So yeah, like it's great that they drafted Jackson Dart, but like I would have much rather let Daboll keep working with Dart and try to find a better defensive coordinator and try to find a better roster builder. Like I feel like the issues in New York were much more about roster construction than they were about any coaching problems that there were. Like Daboll wasn't great, but I thought that they were kind of a package deal, and I am really, really surprised that Joe Schoen gets another opportunity at this roster. And then I was a little bit surprised that Cincinnati keeps Zac Taylor. Not overly, but you just after like that team absolutely quit in the last couple of games of the season. And then you talk about Joe Burrow, who just seemed pissed at everything in the last couple of weeks, to the point where we did a trade piece on him. I was wondering if that was just, if he was going to be a bit of a, oh my gosh, we need to change the mood around here right now. But again, Cincinnati, relatively cheap organization, so that they weren't going to make that kind of a move. But a lot of pressure on Zac Taylor now to go out and try to get the job done, because I think that he has kind of run out of bullets in the chamber, so to speak, for the Cincinnati Bengals. We get another one today where the Cowboys fired their defensive coordinator. Good to see that one from a mile away. Just an awful defense. Maybe got a little bit better. Now, it is a little funny that you trade away one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. The defense isn't good, and you fire the defensive coordinator. That seems very much like we're all trying to figure out who's responsible for this. But it still wasn't good on the defensive side. But I don't know, again, how much coaching was going to alter any of that there with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think we're done with coaching changes. Honestly, I think, crazy as it may seem, but I think Sean McDermott is kind of coaching for his job this week out in Buffalo. So we might get a little bit more from the playoffs and some more of the some more coaches finding their way into this, but already getting into interview season and all of that. But what do you guys think? Is there a coach that shouldn't have been fired in this list? Is there one that should have, that didn't make this list? Let me know in the chat. Obviously, Week 18 was a wild one. I talked about it in recording fashion yesterday. So again, want to keep the conversation going, want to know what you guys thought of the week in the NFL. So let's go to that and my thoughts on Week 18. Again, I'm hanging out. We can still chat, but just going to put that video on. Just want to get your guys' opinion on everything that happened in the NFL. And then we will come back with some basketball and baseball talk coming out of this. The NFL season is now in the books. We get ready for the postseason. Should be a little bit of fun. Obviously, we're going to do a lot with that as the week goes along, but we will begin by looking at how we got here. It is a recap of Week 18 in the National Football League. So, the NFL regular season has now wrapped up, and with it comes a few huge games. We're not going to go through every game because a lot of them didn't matter, but obviously the last one of the year did. The Baltimore Ravens lose in heartbreaking fashion, 26-24, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if you're Baltimore, that's just devastating. Like, just watching that game last night, and like, I didn't have a major rooting interest. I like the Ravens. I think if the Raiders were to fold up, Baltimore would at least be high up there on teams that I would cheer for. And I don't like the Steelers or Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. So I'm not as invested as a Ravens fan would be, but I'm not entirely neutral either. And even me just watching that game, just a roller coaster of a game where it doesn't look like a whole lot is happening, and then a whole lot starts to happen. And it's set up perfectly the way you would want it to be, with a dead-on field goal within 50 yards from 44 yards away, and the kid just missed it. And there was just a thought in the back of my mind. It was like, man, that was too easy for that. Not easy. It was a phenomenal play by Lamar Jackson on fourth down, but it felt like 13 seconds left to just leave it with a field goal there and not try to advance it any further. I get you don't want to risk a fumble or anything like that in that situation, but it did just feel like, man, not doing anything on that just feels like it messes with whatever karma was going on in this game, or whatever weird voodoo the Steelers have had all season long. We'll get to that in a second. But just a devastating turn of events. Obviously, you feel for the kid who misses the field goal. And for Baltimore, this felt like a lost year anyway. I do feel like Harbaugh deserves some of the weight of this. I think the calls to fire him, that's getting a little extreme. I understand we are getting into Steelers territory of this team making the playoffs a bunch, but not necessarily doing a whole lot with it. But I think that is kind of getting overblown a little bit with them as well. I think with the injuries that this group had and some of the problems that they were dealing with as the season went on, I think to lose Lamar Jackson for 4 games, to fall so far behind in the standings, and to have the injuries on defense that they did, to have it come down to you're in a plus position to make a field goal to win the division and advance to the postseason, that feels like not the coaching job that I would fire someone over. That being said, I'm not going to start lighting tables on fire if they do fire him. If I'm, again, a Raider fan, and and Harbaugh gets fired, he moves to the very top of my wish list immediately. And I think that would be basically every team that had a coaching vacancy. And Harbaugh could probably pick his spot on a number of them. But this is not the standard that the Ravens want to set for themselves. It's a couple of years now where the defense hasn't really been as good as you would like it to be. And it's just, they get close and just mess up, whether it's a 2-point conversion, whether it's a Zay Flowers dive into the end zone and the ball gets knocked away from him. Something needs to be elevated there. I think they obviously need to not ignore the defensive side of things. We could say this about a lot of teams. It feels like they could use a number one receiver who can just get open at times. Zay Flowers did that, but that was more what the Steelers didn't do than what Baltimore did do. But I mean, you look at how this game was going, it looked like they were dominating for the first few possessions of the game, and then everyone on defense started getting hurt, and Aaron Rodgers was able to drive down and get some big plays. And just like that, this team is now in a bit of a pickle. So I feel like injuries just didn't go Baltimore's way this season. And even with that, you had a very makeable kick to end the year and it just didn't work. It is devastating, about as devastating a regular season loss as you can get. But I don't think it is one that is terminal for the Ravens. On the Steelers side, like this is just the shoehorn or the horseshoe, season is incredible what they've been able to get. When you look at that, what was it? It was week 1 against the Jets, where the ball bounces like 18 times and just lands in DK Metcalf's lap. And it felt like they had games like that all season long. And now this, like, you go back, they should have lost both against Baltimore. I still don't know how the catch for Likely in the end zone wasn't a catch for a touchdown. And then this one, the voodoo that they put in the end zone with the priest and the holy water before the game. And then when he just yoink in that end zone, like, it just, everything went right for the Steelers in these spots. And look, I don't like giving him credit. I try to not as much as possible. But Aaron Rodgers, against a depleted defense with the Ravens, but still, some big-time plays were made in that fourth quarter to put the Steelers in a position where a missed field goal could go, and all of a sudden, this team is off to the playoffs again. So, I like, credit where credit is due, to get that without DK Metcalf, but again, with all the injuries that they were dealing with. It has felt like a very horseshoey type season all year for the Steelers, and it culminates with one of the weirdest finishes that you will see, and now they are understandably underdogs going into their wild card matchup with the Houston Texans. That was not the only win or go home game, although I guess this one didn't really play out that way, as the Carolina Panthers lose the win or go home game and still go on to the playoffs because Atlanta beat New Orleans in just one of the weirder scenarios that the team is sitting at home, or the teams, are sitting at home watching, and I don't want to say less than, although they did fire their coach after, but kind of two less than teams are playing, representing the others in an opportunity to get to the playoffs. A very weird scenario. Carolina advances, good for them, like to get that experience to come up with enough wins in the season to get going. That's fine. And I think even if Carolina doesn't get into the playoffs, you would consider this a win season for them. Just a little bit more development, especially on the defensive side. Bryce Young, I still don't think it's there, but it was there more often than it has been in the past. So I guess there is that. But certainly not a ringing endorsement for the current playoff system that they're now going to be hosting a team that everyone had number 1 in their power rankings 2 weeks ago in the LA Rams, but that's how this whole thing is set up. As for that game, like, it's heartbreak for the Bucks because they come out and win a football game on Saturday and then have their season end like that. But again, they had a lot of opportunities to have it not end like that. You think of some of the losses they have. Ibuka drops in the end zone, just some misses. And it was funny. I tweeted it out. Tough to convey this one in 280 characters or whatever it is, but it felt like every time a different group came on the field for the Buccaneers, the announcers had a different way of saying that group was letting them down. Like the offense would come out, well, a lot of Baker dealing with some problems and a lot of drops out there and a lot of turnovers and a lot of issues has really let this team down over the last little bit. And then the defense comes out and it's like, boy, this team just hasn't been able to get the stops they've needed in this last little bit, and it feels like the defense has really let them down. And then the punting unit would come out on either side, return or just the actual punter. Special teams really let this team down over the last little bit, and really a big part of why this team's in the spot they're in. It's like, at some point, maybe they're just bad. I don't think they are. I think they are a substantially better football team than Carolina is, or even Atlanta, who they all end up tied with. But just, again, injuries, which is part of this. Like, that's why you never make, I think, any excuses in the playoffs when a team gets an advantage because someone else gets hurt. It's like, it's a really hard thing to do, to survive from September to now and then beyond, 5 weeks from now for the Super Bowl. That's a really hard thing to put a human body through. So part of this is just survival. And Tampa Bay, for whatever reason, couldn't this year. I think they'll be back. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure now on Todd Bowles as the coach of this team to try to get another gear out of this group, because this should not have been a difficult division for this football team to win, but just an ugly game on Saturday. The rain falling, neither team looked like they could do anything with it, really. Tampa Bay, it felt like they had a lot of success early on running the football, and then I don't know if there's like a setting in Madden where it's just, okay, now game plan is locked, because they just wouldn't break off of that for the rest of the game. It's like, well, no, we had success running early on, so now we're just going to hammer the ball at them. And then after 2 possessions, Carolina's run defense woke up and came up with some big spots, but Tampa Bay just kept bashing into that wall over and over again. And you're just dying for this team to try to make any other kind of play. And eventually, again, like I said, they win. But there wasn't a whole lot that gives you confidence about either side coming out of this one. And certainly, I don't think a lot of people are going to be running to the window to be betting on the Carolina Panthers this upcoming weekend. In terms of other things going on, feel happy for Myles Garrett that he gets the sack record. I would feel some kind of way about Joe Burrow kind of sliding there if Brett Favre hadn't done the same thing for Michael Strahan before. And yes, it's different years and all, or not, sorry, different year. Well, it is literally different years, but different amount of games played and everything there. So you can certainly asterisks all you want. To me, season's a season. And if we want to start looking at specifics and all of that, well, I believe Garrett did it in fewer snaps than Strahan. Semantics, really. Record's a record. Myles Garrett, and any season that has been played in the NFL, no one has had more sacks than Myles Garrett. That feels like a record to me. Just one of the more dominant players that this league has. And to do that on a team that's dog shit is really impressive. And when he demanded a trade last offseason, I got so excited because I want this guy playing meaningful football. And so it sucks that, good for him, get that bag out in Cleveland, but he should still be playing. Like the team that he is on should be in the postseason right now so that we get to watch him play as a defensive football player more and more. He is that good and one of certainly the greats of his time, and will go down as one of the better defensive players in the history of the National Football League. And now I think for Cleveland, you have not that this is a surprise, he's been an all-time great type of a player for a long time, but you have this all-time great. You have a defense that felt like it kind of got back on track this season, and you have at least a couple of things to build around on the offensive side of the football, whether it be with Judkins or Fannin. There's at least a little bit of talent there. There's some pressure now to start actually, again, building here in Cleveland, because it's a waste. It's a waste of an all-time talent. And it's really, and this organization's done that now twice with Joe Thomas on the offensive line and now Myles Garrett on the defensive line. Last thought from the NFL this week, all the seeding drama and everything that was going on with, the Eagles arrested their players and this, that, or the other thing. I feel like the seeding thing is fun for us to talk about. I don't think NFL teams really think it that way. Not that I'm in NFL locker rooms or anything like that, but I've been around my share of professional athletes and hearing about them talking about games and everything like that. I don't think for one second that any NFL team is going in saying, okay, well, if we lose this or if we win this, well, now we have an easier path to this, that, and the other thing. And if we lose this game, well, now it gets a little bit more difficult. So we should da-da-da-da-da. They're focused on just what they can do. So I think the suggestion that they should have brought the starters in or played the starters in this game so they could get a better seed or anything like that, unless it's the 1 seed and you get a bye, I don't see that being the case. And this group, say what you will about how this season has gone for the Philadelphia Eagles, but they are the defending Super Bowl champions. And Sirianni, while he can be a little out there, he is still someone who I think has a decent read on his locker room anyway. And if nothing else, knows when his guys need rest and which guys he can rest and which guys he can't. So I think you just have to trust the Eagles in this. And if they go out and lose this week, I don't think it's going to be because they did the bye thing. I just think it's been a weird season for them. I feel like that is a fan thing more than it is a team thing. And maybe teams should focus on that kind of thing a little bit more, trying to get different matchups and this, that, or the other thing. But especially in football, I don't see that really being the mentality of many teams out there. Even with the Giants costing themselves like 6 positions in the draft. It's just, you can like sit different guys and all of that. Football is a really hard sport to tank in because, again, you do need a level of physical buy-in when you're playing this thing. And to ask a guy to go out there for 16 weeks and bust it because he needs to win or all of these things, and then in the last game of the season, say, you know what, we're going to sit this one so we can get a better draft pick that might replace you. That's an easy way to lose a lot of people and a bit of a loser mentality. We have seen a lot of instances where maybe you should have stuck with those things, but that's just not the way that these work. And so I was surprised at how many people reacted the way they did to the Eagles situation and the Bears and everything like that. So I in those instances, I trust the teams to know which guys need their starters rested, which ones don't, and who's going to play well after sitting for a week and who isn't, and put themselves in the best position that way, instead of trying to finagle it to maybe get a better matchup. That's just how I kind of see all that playing out in the NFL. So those are my thoughts. Where are you on any of that? Should the Eagles focus more on getting the 2 seed, or are you with me and it's just like football teams will just let the chips fall where they may? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you could help me out by sharing this video, that would go a long way as well. Twice I've done that. All right. So those are my thoughts on the NFL. Again, if you missed any of that or just want to relive the fun, the video is up on YouTube right now. Let's shift gears and go into the basketball world. One of the NBA's big stars apparently is wanting out. Not Giannis, well, maybe, but not AD, I mean, kind of, but Trae Young. Big name. Should teams be falling all over themselves to get him? Will he help anyone? Let's talk through the latest in the big name wanting out craze in the NBA. So, Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks are now working through the process of finding Trae Young a new basketball team to play for. And I would just like to state, for the record, I am so out on this guy. I am not a Trae Young fan. I'm not a Trae Young believer. This isn't even one where if he ends up on my team, the Raptors there with the, I'm noticing now a bit of an off-center photo, so my bad. But either way, if Trae Young made his way to the Raptors, I would be upset. Like that, it's not even one of those, oh, well, I would talk myself into it if it was my team. No. I'm out on this guy. I don't think he's certainly not best player on a championship team material. He is hardly second best player on a championship team material, in my opinion. I just like, who has this guy made better as a point guard, as a player? Who has been someone who's like, man, this guy really benefited from Trae Young being around the Atlanta Hawks, and he really benefited from under the learning tree, or just with the playmaking ability, or this, that, or the other thing of Trae Young. I think he is not someone who makes those around him better. He has lived off of one good big playoff series in his entire career, and it is not someone I would remotely consider giving up assets for at this particular time. It's just I am so out on this guy. I don't think he is a player that you win with. And the Atlanta Hawks saw it when Young went down with an injury. Things moved pretty well for them, and so they're in a good spot because they already have a proof of concept that they can kind of play without him. And so if you get anything decent for him at all, which you will, like I know I'm being hard on the guy. He very good shooter, all of that. Tantalizing in a number of different ways, so you should get something at least decent for him. It wouldn't be for me. I would not be the one giving up anything of substance for Trae Young. But now for Atlanta, again, feels like you're in a pretty solid spot to build on what already feels like a pretty decent core with this ball club. So the question is, where could he go? Looking at some of the targets, like, it's easier to find a spot for Giannis, obviously. Even Anthony Davis, like for him, there aren't many. So I picked a few. I know I just said I wouldn't want him on the Raptors. I'm a little worried about him maybe going to the Raptors. Toronto has been in on every big name over the last little while, except for Luka, because no one else was allowed to be in on that. But quickly just hasn't really clicked. 3-point shooting is always something that this Raptors team is a little bit lacking in. And so I could see them maybe kind of getting tantalized a little bit and trying to change the mix. The problem is, dude needs the ball a lot, and the Raptors already have a couple of other guys in that way. They need someone, much better defensively than Quickly is, and B, they need someone a little bit more focused on distributing and all of that than Trae Young would be. I think him, BI, and RJ Barrett would be, unless Barrett's involved in the trade, but still, even Barnes. I think it would be a really, really tough mix. So I could see the Raptors doing it, but I don't see how it fits necessarily. Orlando is another one. They've already made a big move for a 3-point shooter. Do they go out and get another one and try to hope that the big guys can hold up defensively where Trae Young would maybe be a little bit off? I think they've already shown kind of a want to break free from the hackles of being a play-in or just above play-in team and shown a little bit of desperation. So I could see them making another move like that. But again, I don't think it would be beneficial to them. Miami is just always in on everyone, so maybe they try to go get their game changer that way. The Bucks, it could be a desperation move or a Giannis move. Like, they don't have their draft picks, so the conversation around trading Giannis has always been a bit of a tricky one when it comes to just trading him for a bunch of draft picks. Like, okay, great, but we don't have our own picks, so what are we going to do with that? Atlanta in an interesting spot with those, but you wonder if the Bucks just, hey, Giannis for Trae Young. We want to get a couple of pieces back for Giannis, so let's at least get something that can help us not be awful and still be relatively competitive, but also helping us for the future. So maybe there's something there. Like the Rockets and Timberwolves do need improved play from the point. But again, the Rockets, I think that messes with everything that they have going on right now. And the Timberwolves could benefit from improved point guard play. But again, it's just, I have a trouble doing this because I'm just not bought into the player. So unless it's I was going to throw out Memphis. That doesn't even work. The Nets drafted 5 guards and don't seem to like any of them, so maybe it's them. If it's a winning team, I don't see the fit because I don't think this is a winning player. I put this together because, these kind of lists are fun and you want to see okay, what could happen with this, but I don't see it with this guy at all. I would not want him on my team. I do not want him on any good teams because I don't want to mess with any of them. I'm not a fan. But someone will get desperate enough and see, okay, well, we can change him. We can get the most out of that guy and get that kind of 3-point game changer in our midst, and off we go with the Splash Brothers 2.0 or something like that. Someone will get desperate enough to do that. I hope it's not a team that I enjoy watching play because I don't like watching this guy play basketball. I think I've been pretty clear about that. So what do you guys think? Am I way too hard on Trae Young? Probably. Let me know in the comments or in the chat, and let me know why I am wrong. Hey, if you're enjoying this, you can bring Couch Potato Diary with you wherever you go in podcast form, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your pods. I know in the description we have a bit of baseball talk going on. I think we're going to call it now here for today. Been going for about an hour and a half with a couple of, changes here and there, but still, want to get some of this stuff out. So next live stream is going to be Thursday. That I can assure you. Definitely going to be Thursday. I might try to do something Wednesday, but we'll see. I'm working the morning show on 960, so check me out if you're in Calgary. Again, check out the podcast. If you are listening in podcast form here after the fact, make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, again, hit that subscribe button, hit like, leave a comment, and share this with some of your friends as well as we try to grow things here with Couch Potato Diary. Always open to different ideas. Whatever you guys want to see, let me know. You can follow me on social media and give me your suggestions that way. Otherwise, chat with you all on Thursday. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.